It is 3 in the morning and you are awake again. Your heart is pounding. Your thoughts are spinning in circles. The bills, the work, the fear of tomorrow. You know this is destroying you. You know you need to calm down, but you cannot. And here is the first thing I need you to understand tonight. It is not your fault. It is your programmed mind. Maybe you know that feeling. Running in circles like a hamster in a cage, endless effort and zero progress. A spectator of your own life, never the director. I know that feeling too, because a few years ago it nearly destroyed everything I had built. In the next 40 minutes, I am going to show you why your mind keeps running the same painful loops, why trying harder has never worked, and the exact mechanism that finally lets you change the code underneath. This is not positive thinking. This is reprogramming. So if you have felt far from your own life lately, stay with me. Before I go further, let me prove something to you right now. Close your eyes for a moment and vividly remember the most stressful thing that happened to you yesterday. Feel it, as if it were happening again. Now notice your body. Your heart rate just rose. Your shoulders tightened. Your breathing went shallow. And yet nothing actually happened. It was only a thought. That is how much power your mind has over your body. Now imagine using that same power on purpose. Let me take you to a date I will never forget. The 12th of March, 2020. For 27 years I had run a business. By that year I had 7 stores in the city center, over 30 employees, thousands of customers a month. Something I had built from a single table in a doorway. And then, in a single day, everything stopped. Lockdown. 7 stores, 0 income, 30 people counting on me, and a business model that had worked for 3 decades, suddenly worthless. I woke at night with my heart pounding like a hammer. Not occasionally. Every night for months. Counting liquidity in my head. 2 months of runway, and then what? Lay people off. Close the company I had built my entire life. One evening, after another sleepless night, I sat in my living room and asked myself a single question that changed everything. What can I actually control? I could not control the virus. I could not control the lockdown. But I could control one thing. How I respond. It sounds almost trivial. But in that moment it was revolutionary. Because I realized that for months, my mind had been running in pure panic mode. Every morning I woke up thinking, everything is falling apart. And my brain went looking for evidence that everything was falling apart. And of course, it found it. That is the first thing you have to understand about the mind. Your brain is, at its core, a pattern recognition machine. If for 10 years you woke up thinking another hard day, your brain learned that pattern. Not because you are a pessimist, because repetition builds neural pathways. Imagine a thick forest. The first day you push through the dense undergrowth, it is slow and difficult. The second day, the same route is slightly easier. After a month, there is a visible path. After a year, a wide, clear road. That is exactly how your brain works. Every thought you thought yesterday cut a small trail. Think it again today. The trail deepens. Think it for a week, and you have built a highway. And your brain loves highways because they are fast and they cost no effort. That is why you think the same thoughts 90% of the time. Not because they are true, because they are comfortable. And before we go any deeper, if any of this is already landing for you, take 1 second to subscribe and like this video. It is a small action, but it is a vote for the kind of mind you are building, and it helps this channel reach the people who need it. And if you want this whole method laid out step by step, my book, Reprogram Your Mind, is available now on Amazon. The link is in the description. Now, let us keep going. Here is what almost no one tells you. The part of your mind you call you, the voice reading these thoughts, the one that makes plans and resolutions. It controls only about 5% of your behavior. The other 95% runs underneath in the subconscious. A researcher named John Kehoe spent 3 years living completely alone in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, studying one question: how does the human mind actually work? He emerged with a single observation that has held up for 50 years. 95% of what you do, think, and feel is run by the subconscious. And most people have no idea it even exists. Picture your mind as a computer. Your conscious mind is the screen, what you see, what you actively think about. Your subconscious is the operating system running in the background. You never see the code, but it controls everything. How many times today did you consciously tell your lungs to breathe? 0. How many times did you consciously decide to avoid an uncomfortable conversation because of an old fear of rejection? Also, 0. But the program executed perfectly, and you never noticed. And here is the tragedy of almost all self-improvement. People try to change their entire lives using only that 5%. I resolve to be calmer, the conscious mind declares. But the subconscious has run a program called "The World is Dangerous Worry" for 20 years. That program holds 95% of the power. Guess who wins? This is why New Year resolutions collapse by February. The conscious mind says, go for a run. The subconscious says, stay in bed, it is warm and safe here. And the subconscious wins always, because you cannot fight a 95% operating system with a 5% wish. So where do these programs come from? Kehoe found 3 doors. The first is repetition. Do or think anything enough times, and it becomes automatic, like driving a car until you arrive without remembering the road. The second is strong emotion. One intense experience can install a program for life, the way a single dog bite can leave a fear that lasts 40 years. And the third door is authority, in childhood. When you are small, your parents and teachers are like gods. Whatever they say is recorded as absolute truth. If a child hears you are lazy 100 times, the subconscious files it as a biological fact. And for the next 40 years, that person struggles with being lazy. Not because they are, but because the instruction is still running. When I first learned this, I started doing 5 minutes of visualization every morning. I imagined a solution for my business. I felt a little better, but nothing really changed. And one morning, I finally understood why. I was putting 5 minutes of new programming up against 16 hours of my old fear program, 5% against 95. It was like trying to fill a bathtub while the drain was wide open. I poured water in for 5 minutes, then let it drain out for the rest of the day and wondered why the tub was always empty. This is also why affirmations usually fail. You stand in front of a mirror saying, I am wealthy, while staring at a stack of unpaid bills. Your conscious mind says the words, but your subconscious is screaming, you are lying. Look at the bank account. And when words and feelings conflict, the feeling always wins. The subconscious records the anxiety, not the sentence. And the moment you try to change a deep program, something pushes back. I felt it. When I stopped reaching for my phone the second I woke and closed my eyes instead, my brain screamed at me. Check the news. Check your account. Something bad is happening and we need to look at it. That was not intuition. That was the old program defending itself. It was the biological discomfort of abandoning a heavily used highway and pushing back into the overgrown forest. And here is what you must remember in that moment. The resistance is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is a sign you are finally doing it right. Let me give you the single most important sentence in this entire video. Your brain is a tool. It is not you. A hammer does not decide what you build. A car does not decide where you drive. And your brain does not decide what you think unless you hand it the wheel. If you do not take the wheel, it will replay its oldest survival programs forever, and you will call that your personality. So how do you actually break a program that runs faster than thought? For a long time, I knew my toxic programs. It is never enough. I have to control everything. Rest is weakness. I could see them clearly. But seeing them did not stop them. It was like knowing there is a virus on your computer and having no idea how to delete it. And then I found the one mechanism that changed everything. Neuroscience calls it the gap. Between a stimulus and your response, there is a space. Something happens, and somewhere between half a second and 5 seconds later, you react. In that tiny window, your brain is deciding which program to run. Most people never notice this space. They live their whole lives with the stimulus and the reaction fused together. Someone criticizes you. You feel crushed. Automatic. The bank balance is low. You panic. Automatic. Someone gets too close. You push them away. Automatic. But Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, left us this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is the gap. And if you can stretch it from half a second to 5 seconds, you can interrupt the program. And once you interrupt it, you can choose something else. Let me tell you about David, a 48-year-old operations manager. For 30 years, he had an explosive anger problem. Someone cut him off in traffic, road rage. An employee made a mistake, an explosion. His wife said one critical word, yelling. He had nearly lost his marriage twice and had just lost a major contract by blowing up at a vendor. He had tried anger management. He had tried therapy. Nothing held in the moment. So his therapist gave him something almost insultingly simple. Before you react, count to 5. David scoffed, but he agreed to try it for 1 week. The next day, an email arrived, another delayed shipment. The familiar heat rose in his chest. His hands went to the keyboard to fire off a brutal reply. And then he remembered the rule. He took his hands off the keys. 1, 2, 3. By 3, the rage was still burning. 4, 5. By 5, it had not vanished, but it was suddenly manageable. He took a breath, closed the draft, and picked up the phone to find a solution instead. It was the first time in 30 years he chose his response instead of reacting. In his first week, he used it 20 times and it worked 12. By the 3rd month, the anger barely activated at all. 8 years later, it is mostly gone. He did not suppress the anger. He physically broke the automatic pathway by inserting a gap. The same thing happened with Jennifer, who had battled anxiety spirals for 15 years. She used the gap to interrupt the very first catastrophic thought, before the spiral could build. 3 to 5 panic attacks a week, dropped to almost 0 within 6 months. The mechanism was identical. She inserted a pause where there had only ever been automatism. There is real science underneath this. A Nobel laureate, Daniel Kahneman, showed that your brain runs on 2 systems. System 1 is automatic, half a second, effortless, ancient. It runs your wired programs. System 2 is conscious, slow, deliberate, and it lives in the most advanced part of your brain, and it can override the old programs. When a trigger hits, System 1 fires instantly. Run the anger program. Run the panic program. But when you force a 5-second gap, System 2 finally has time to boot up and ask, wait, do we really need to panic right now? Consciousness overrides automatism. That is the whole game. So here is how you actually do it in your real life today. Step 1. Notice the trigger. Something happens that usually launches your automatic reaction. A criticism, a low balance, a certain tone in someone's voice. Step 2. Pause physically. Stop moving. If you are about to speak, close your mouth. If you're about to type, take your hands off the keyboard. This physical stop tells your brain a pattern has just been broken. Step 3. Count to 5. Slowly. Real, full seconds. Do not rush it. This is the actual gap, and you are buying time for the conscious brain to come online. Step 4. Take one slow breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. This signals your nervous system that you are safe and quietly lowers the stress chemistry. And step 5. Choose. Ask, not how do I feel like responding. The old program will gladly answer that. Ask, how do I want to respond as the person I am becoming? Then do that. Now, a warning, because most people fail at this the first week. Your old program is so fast you will forget to pause until after you have already yelled or spiraled. So do not start with your deepest wound. Practice on the small things first. Practice the gap when a traffic light turns red, when you drop a pen, when the internet is slow. Build the biological habit of pausing on tiny irritations before you ever bring it to the big ones. And do not expect perfection. You are building a brand new circuit in your brain. If the gap works even 30% of the time in your first week, you are not failing. You are winning. By the second week, a new pathway is forming. By the third week, it works most of the time. And around day 21, the pause becomes your new default. When I first used the gap on my own, it is never enough money panic. It worked about half the time. The other half I was simply too fast and forgot. But half was infinitely better than zero, because I had created space where, for years, there had been none. And that space is where the entire transformation takes root. But there was one program I could pause, and it kept coming back, relentless. The "it is never enough" fear. And one morning in meditation, a strange question surfaced. Why am I so angry at my father? I was not angry at my father. I loved him. And then I felt it in my chest, in my stomach. 30 years of buried anger. And I understood. I could not delete the old program because I was still holding the anger that created it. Here is what almost everyone misunderstands about forgiveness. It is not about them. It is about you. When you hold resentment towards someone, you are not hurting them. You are running a toxic program in your own body. Every time you replay what they did, your stress chemistry spikes, your heart races, and the old neural pathway grows stronger. You are reprogramming yourself with the wound over and over. And there are 3 places this resentment hides. The people who hurt you, life itself, for its losses and its unfairness, and hardest of all, yourself, for your own mistakes and the years you feel you cannot get back. You will know which one is most ready to release, not the easiest, not the hardest, the one that feels ready. Start there. Louise Hay said it perfectly. Resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. It is not letting them back in. It is releasing your grip on the pain, so it stops poisoning you. Forgiveness is not spiritual decoration. It is biological. When you forgive, your stress hormones drop, your nervous system calms, and the old pathway finally begins to weaken. Consider Robert, who suffered chronic back pain for 15 years with no physical cause. Nothing helped. Then a doctor asked one question. What happened 15 years ago when the pain started? Robert remembered. His father had died, and they had never reconciled after a bitter argument. The doctor said, "Your body is holding this." So Robert wrote a forgiveness letter to his father every day for 30 days. "Dad, I forgive you for being absent. I forgive you for criticizing me. And I forgive myself for not reaching out before you died." Week 1. The pain was still there. Week 2. For the first morning in 15 years, he woke without pain. By the end of the month, it was almost entirely gone. 8 years later, he is still pain-free. His body had been storing the resentment. Forgiveness physically released it. I started with my own father. Every morning I wrote the same words, and for the first 3 days they felt completely fake. By day 8, a memory surfaced. An old financial crisis, when he was terrified of losing everything, and still found a way to protect us. I cried for the first time in years. By day 21, I felt physically lighter. The "it is never enough" program was still there, but it had lost its emotional fuel. And if some wound feels too deep to forgive, you do not have to force it. You only have to become willing. I am not ready to forgive yet, but I am willing to be willing someday. That single sentence is enough to start. The subconscious hears the word willingness and quietly begins to soften the armor. But interrupting the old program is only half the work. A cleared path grows over again unless you build a new road in its place. And the subconscious builds new roads through one thing above all: repetition. Consider Rachel, a woman who had fought severe depression for 20 years. Therapy, medication, retreats, yoga. Some things helped for a while, nothing held. Then she tried something that sounds far too simple to work. She chose one sentence: I am calm and happy. And she repeated it 300 times a day for 21 days. The first days she felt foolish. Her brain rejected the words. By the first week it had stopped feeling strange. By the second week she noticed small, unexplained moments of calm. And by the third week, for the first time in 20 years, she caught herself smiling for no reason at all. 6,000 repetitions had handed her subconscious a new program, and the old one was overwritten. Why 21 days? It is not magic. It is the time your physical brain needs to change. Week 1, you carve a new pathway, and it meets resistance. Week 2, the pathway strengthens and starts to feel familiar. Week 3, it becomes automatic. After that, you do not have to try to think the new way. You simply do. And the subconscious does not check whether the new program is true. It only registers what you repeat with feeling. Say, I am a loser 1,000 times, and it believes it. Say, I am calm 1,000 times with emotion, and it believes that just as readily. It is a biological computer, not a moral judge. So choose your one sentence, not 10. 1. Short, present tense, and positive. Not I do not want to be anxious, which only points the mind back at the anxiety. Instead, I am calm and capable. Write it where you will see it. Say it morning, noon, and night. And give it the 21 days your biology actually needs to build the road. There is one more piece that makes this almost unfair in your favor. Your brain cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagined and something that actually happened. In a Harvard study, 2 groups practiced a piano sequence for a week. One group played a real piano. The other only imagined playing. No instrument, just intense imagination. Their brain scans changed almost identically. And this is not a metaphor. For decades, scientists believed the adult brain was fixed. Then came neuroplasticity. Your brain can change at any age, until the day you die. New pathways form. Old, unused ones fade. Your brain is not a rigid rock. It is clay, and you are the sculptor. Consider Claire, who suffered severe spinal damage in a car accident. The doctors were unanimous. You will never walk again. After a year of therapy with 0 progress, she made a choice. Every day for 6 months, 3 hours a day, she lay in bed and imagined walking. She saw it. She felt the ground under her feet. She heard her own footsteps so vividly that her brain believed it was happening. After 6 months, new scans stunned the doctors. The damaged connections in her spine had begun to rebuild. They called it impossible. But Claire walked. And nearly 2 decades later, she still walks. Because intense, focused imagination is registered by the brain as real, physical action. If you can vividly imagine it, your brain can physically rewire toward it. So when you imagine your new life, do not watch it like a movie from the outside. Step inside it. See it through your own eyes. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you touch? Feel the emotion of it as already true. Then hold that scene and let it repeat. To your subconscious, a scene imagined this vividly is indistinguishable from a memory of something that actually happened. This is why, the year everything stopped, I did not just repeat words. I closed my eyes and saw my business surviving, in detail, with feeling, as if it had already happened. The lockdown did not end. The bank account did not fill. But my internal program changed first, and the clear decisions followed from there. 5 stores survived, and more than that, I survived. Mentally and emotionally. But there is one ingredient that makes all of this either work or fail, and most people miss it entirely. Your conscious mind speaks in words. Your subconscious speaks in emotion. You can say I am confident 1,000 times, but if you feel anxious while you say it, the subconscious ignores the words and records the anxiety. Thought without emotion is a weak signal. Thought with emotion is a command. Take James, who was $80,000 in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. He repeated, I am wealthy for 6 months, and nothing changed. Then he stopped repeating and started feeling. Every morning he closed his eyes and asked, how would security actually feel in my body? Relief in the chest, shoulders dropping, a quiet sense of enough. He did not picture money falling from the sky. He simply felt wealthy for 10 minutes a day. The first month, nothing external changed. But he changed. He walked differently. He spoke with more certainty. And from that calm, he negotiated a raise he had been too afraid to ask for. Then he revived a project he had abandoned. Within 3 years, the debt was gone, and he had built a 6-figure business. I did not think my way to wealth, he said. I felt my way there, and my actions followed the feeling. This is measurable. When you hold an elevated emotion, gratitude, love, calm, for 3 to 10 minutes, your heart rhythm becomes coherent, your body releases dopamine and oxytocin, and your stress hormone can drop by nearly 1/3. John Kehoe found that 3 to 10 seconds of genuine emotion is more powerful than 100 repetitions said like a robot. Emotion is the marker that tells the subconscious, this one matters, install it. So how do you generate an emotion on demand? Remember a time you truly felt it and rebuild the physical sensation in your body. Or imagine the moment your goal arrives and let the feeling rush in. Or simply change your posture. Stand tall, open your chest, put your hand on your heart. Breathe slow. Emotion always follows the body. You are not waiting to feel it. You are choosing to. Even pain responds. Helena had lived with chronic pain for 12 years. Her therapist suggested something strange. Practice feeling joy, 10 minutes a day. She protested. I am in pain. How can I feel joy? That is exactly why, he said. Your nervous system has been locked in alarm for 12 years. Give it a different signal. By the 3rd week, her pain noticeably dropped. A year later, it was mild and manageable. Her nervous system had finally been handed something else to feel. And as the new program takes root, around day 10 to 14, you start to notice the signs. The new sentence begins appearing in your mind on its own, while you wash the dishes or drive. A situation that would have triggered panic last week now leaves you strangely neutral. And opportunities, conversations, and solutions you swear were not there before start to appear. That is not magic. That is your brain's filter retuning to match the program you gave it. Let me prepare you for one more thing. Often, right before it gets better, it briefly gets worse. The old program, sensing that it is being replaced, fights hardest just before it breaks. Do not read that turbulence as failure. It is the last resistance of a pattern that is finally losing its grip on you. There is one more thing no one warns you about. When you actually change, some of the people around you will not celebrate. They will get uncomfortable. You used to worry with them, struggle with them, complain with them. That shared struggle was the bond. And when you step out of it, their mind quietly panics. If he can change, then maybe I could have too. That thought is painful. So it is easier to pull you back. My own daughter said it plainly. Dad, you are different, it is weird. You used to worry about everything. For her whole life, my anxiety had been proof that I cared. A calm father was unfamiliar, and unfamiliar felt like not caring. It took her 3 months to adjust. Then one day she said, I like this version of you better. You are easier to be around. She asked me how I could be calm and still care. And I told her the truth I had only just learned myself. Worry is fear pretending to be preparation. Calm is the quiet confidence that you can handle whatever comes. You do not lose your edge when you let the worry go. You finally trade it for something that actually works. So do not announce your transformation. Do the quiet work and let the results speak. Protect your practice like it is sacred, because it is. And understand that some relationships will deepen, most will adjust, and a few will fall away. That is not failure. Some people are in your life for a season, not a lifetime. You cannot stay small to keep others comfortable. The right people will adjust. Let the rest go. So let me bring this together, simply. Your subconscious runs about 95% of your life on programs installed long before you had any say. Trying harder at the conscious level, more willpower, more motivation, never touches them. What touches them is working the way the mind actually works. You interrupt the old program with the gap. The 5-second pause that lets consciousness override automatism. You release the resentment that fuels it through forgiveness. And you install the new one through repetition, vivid imagination, and felt emotion until the new pathway becomes your default. Interrupt, release, replace. That is the whole method. And here is the truth I want you to leave with. You are not broken. You never were. You were simply running old code in a present it no longer fits. The programs that exhaust you were once solutions. They kept a younger, frightened version of you safe. They deserve a quiet thank you. And then they deserve to be retired because you are the one holding the keyboard now. And understand that this is not a single event. It is a practice. Some mornings you will take the wheel cleanly. Some mornings the old program will drive for an hour before you even notice. That is fine. The work is not to never fall back asleep. The work is to keep waking up a little sooner each time until awareness itself becomes the most natural thing you do. Do not wait until you feel like a different person. Insert one gap today. Repeat one new sentence today. Imagine one better outcome with real feeling today. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around. A whole life is not changed in a day. It is changed in small moments exactly like this one. When you stop running and quietly take the wheel. If even one thing here reached you, leave a single word in the comments. Awake. And if you want the full 8-week process, every technique laid out step by step, with the exercises you can start tonight, my book, Reprogram Your Mind, is available now on Amazon, and the link is in the description below. Subscribe and let us keep walking this path together. Your mind is not fixed, it is programmable, and you are the one holding the keyboard.